So Convergence is a 2D action platformer featuring Ekko, who is a champion from League of Legends that is renowned for his time rewinding abilities.
So this is a Riot Forge game. How did this kind of collaboration actually come about?
Well, they called Dan.
They just called you up on your mobile.
It's a good story because we had just finished actually launching our last game, Speed Brawl, which we launched in like September 2018. And then a couple of months later, we submitted the game to a festival. I think someone at Riot Forge picked it up, thought it was really fun, and then they contacted us, and we were like, great, we have a chance to work with League of Legends. This is like a dream come true. So really, they got us to choose a champion, figure out the story we wanted to tell, and then develop the game.
It must have been quite a hard choice because I love League, and one of the great things is that all the champions are unique, not only in their abilities, but the lore and everything. So obviously you picked Ekko. What made you gravitate towards that as a choice?
We did actually look at a few different options, but ultimately we went towards Ekko for a couple of reasons. I mean, one was just the setting of Zaun, which we thought was super exciting and probably just like our favorite area in Runeterra. And this is even before Arcane. And the other is we actually had some tech from Speed Brawl that we hadn't kept, which was sort of like a time manipulation like ability, but it didn't make sense in that game, which was a multiplayer game. But it really made sense for like a narrative-driven action game like Convergence. So we sort of like dug that up and started playing with it and did a proof of concept that allowed you to kind of rewind time by a few seconds, and the rest was history.
Yeah, obviously one of Ekko's key mechanics, right, is how he can manipulate time. Now, many games have tried changing time and stuff, so how have you approached it differently?
I mean, I think what's really interesting about it is that even though people know Ekko for that ability, he actually can't do that in the MOBA because it's a competitive game, and it just wouldn't be fair if you could just rewind the entire world around you when you're playing. So that was really a unique point that we could leverage for a single-player action game.
Well, let's talk about as well like the difficulty of things, because obviously you've got the 2D platforming elements of it, you've got combat as well. Like, how have you adjusted it? Because I imagine lots of people playing will be, say, League fans that might not be accustomed to this genre very much, whereas you're going to get the platformers who are like hardcore, want to play, make it difficult. So how have you kind of gone about adjusting for that?
So we've set 3 difficulty modes. From the get-go, you can make your choice. Each levers that you have in each difficulty mode can be tweaked individually. So you can make it even easier if you want, or even harder. And it goes from combat just being more complicated, but also platforming. Our designers have been through the levels, and you have like 3 different level design for each level. Like a really easy one, less spikes, easier platforms. The last one is like just really tricky. So someone that really knows the genre and really want to speed run and have fun with it can go really hard. Someone that's just more of a League fan and just not as familiar can go with the easy approach and just enjoy the story and the character.
Yeah, fundamentally, you can, if you're a player who's really wants to dig their teeth into the combat but hates platforming, you can make the platforming super casual and then make the combat hardcore, or vice versa, make your platforming super hardcore and then the combat is just a breeze.
Amazing. I mean, we also kind of touched on Arcane as well. Obviously that's based in Piltover and Zaun, maybe it's about the Zaun being established, right? So you were developing this alongside, imagine when Arcane was coming out, being made, was there much kind of collaboration in terms of you being told what's happening there and what you're doing as well?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact timeline of Arcane, but we started 4 years ago on this, so it was well before the series was released. We based a lot of the story and stuff on lore that players who know League through either the game or the comics or the lore online. We base it on that. But fundamentally, it's a unique expression of Ekko, and whether you know Ekko from League or from Arcane, there's something for everyone.
And that's it. And then part of the story, like, give me a good bit of synopsis of the story, because at the beginning I saw that you meet adult Ekko, who I imagine has come back through time. So what's the kind of overall story arc that you're kind of introduced to in Convergence?
Yeah, exactly. So as you said, Ekko very early in the game will meet his future self, or an instance of his future self, who's come back in time to fix something in the past to save the future. And so the two need to work together against a Chem Baron family called the Poindexters. And they've found a way to synthesize these crystals that rival the power of hextech crystals, which is something that's normally a power in Piltover. So this threatens the balance between the two cities.
Amazing. One quick question as well, because you mentioned how you thought about other potential champions. Now, it feels like you've approached Ekko in a really interesting way of kind of how you've introduced his skill set and like introduced them into actual mechanics of the game. I'm curious, like, would you reveal like what other characters that you might be looking at, other ideas that you had that you didn't quite hit the mark?
That's going to be an easy question. I wasn't there, so
All right.
hot potato.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to disappoint anybody who's particularly inclined towards those champions there, but there's a lot of just awesome champions. But maybe if we made another game in the League world.
And then what about like the lore as well? Because Runeterra is now very much kind of a rich, diverse, story-driven kind of world now. So for people who are fans of League of Legends, Runeterra is they're kind of a really, a nice in-depth story for people to sink their teeth in here.
Absolutely. I mean, we worked really closely with the Riot Forge team. We loaded the game with Easter eggs of a lot of other champions, many of which we couldn't include directly, but there's a lot of stuff in there to dig through for fans.
A lot of people are naturally going to be drawn to this game because it's tied to League of Legends. But obviously the game's more than that as well. So if someone was coming in with zero knowledge of the lore or League of Legends, how would you sell it to them?
I mean, we sort of built the game on two fronts. I mean, on the one hand, we built it for longtime players of League of Legends, that they can finally see a lot of the lore that they otherwise haven't seen expressed so much in games. But it's also built for action platformer players to kind of get into it, and it actually acts as a pretty good introduction to it. Like, even if you don't know who Ekko is, you play this game and you're going to be super familiar with him and all the other champions in the game.
Yeah, and honestly, just one thing to wrap it up, it's been an absolute pleasure working with Riot Forge and the whole team and the support that we've gotten throughout the development. So we're really proud of the game that we put together, and looking forward to getting people's comments as they play it.
It was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for playing.